for this opportunity, for Ned calling me the rosary and asking me to do this. I find this kind of thing very humbling because to be able to tell you what I've gone through and how it was only by this church and by this cross and Jesus that got me through is a wonderful thing for me to be able to do. But it also is, like I said, humbling. And as Father said, we are here for a covenant between Jesus and ourselves. We are broken people, all of us. The reason we come to church 9 times out of 10 is when we desperately need Him. I remember how packed this church was at 9/11, when it was standing room only. Because those days were so hard for us to comprehend and to understand. The only person and the only place you got any peace or understanding was in front of this cross and in this church. I was blessed to be here since 1968, when we first arrived in Staten Island. We joined this parish, and I saw it grow. I could close my eyes and see all the people that I remember from the 6:30 Mass and the 9 o'clock Mass that are no longer here. But those were my saints in this church. People that, they just had a presence about them, that you could understand God's here because they're here. And if they're here, I better be here. My son is Justin Volpe, as some of you know, some may not. He's the officer that 17 years ago was given a 30-year sentence. He assaulted Admiral. And at the time, this was like, it was a wild circus. Months before, I would sit in this church, right in front of the Eucharist there, and I don't know why, but I'd go to 6:30 Mass and stay. And then I'd go home and feed Chester breakfast because he worked the late shift. He'd come in at 8 o'clock in the morning. And God gave me some kind of peace I can't quite understand till to this day. So that when I first heard about it, I was leaving this church at 6:30 or it was 8 o'clock in the morning over the radio. And I'm like, what? What am I hearing? I heard my son's name. And then it began. 2 years of press outside my house, wherever I went, even to church, I was followed. I was stalked. I was threatened. But I was never afraid. I cannot tell you how this church, that Eucharist in that tabernacle, because we didn't even have the relationship at that point, was the only thing that made me understand, you can get through this. This will be all right. And when Justin finally went off to prison, my first encounter with him made him know I'd be all right, because I'm a little crazy, you know? I don't know if it's the Italian in me, I don't know if it's the artist in me, but I'm a little crazy, there's no doubt. And so when I went the first time, my husband went the week before. This was in Manhattan, MCC, and he went to see him, saw what was going to be going on, and then he took me. And we're standing outside this prison for an hour and more, in this blazing 100-degree weather, and Bobby's looking up at the police building across the way, which is Police Plaza, and he said, that was where my office was. And I said, oh really? He goes, yeah, I used to watch people on this line. I said, really? He goes, I never thought I'd be one of them. I said, we never know what's coming, do we? Then he started to proceed to tell me what was going to happen. He said, they're going to walk you in, Grace, you're going to go to a metal detector, then they're going to take us up to the 9th floor because he's in segregation, and there's a pod of cells. These people never come out of the cell 24 hours. Except once a week, and he's part of that. I said, okay. Just explain myself. So now I spaced out because I'm good at that. My nickname is Child Spacey Gracie. Today they have me labeled autistic or whatever. I know. And I started praying. I started staring, and I'm looking down at the police barrier, and Bobby says to me, "What's the matter, Grace? You're not talking," because, you know, I usually get chatty when certain things are happening. But I didn't. And I said to him, "I don't know where you are, but I'm on the line to the rock and roll show. Alan Free. I went to it. I think these are the same barriers. I'm looking for my name carved in there because they did got my name." And he just shook his head and smiled. Then I went in, and I met Angel along the way. This little Puerto Rican girl, CEO. I used to call her Pokemon. I never really knew her name. She talked about Pokemon all the time, about her kids. She hands me a napkin. She said, "This is all because of Saturday." And I said, "Why?" She said, "If you get up there and you have to cry, you know, I mean, the first act of kindness, I wasn't even in the building yet." So I said, "No, I'm not going to cry." And then she allowed me and Bob to get, they always have these vending machines. I think that's how they make their money on the vending machines. But anyway, we go to the vending machines and I get 3 bags of popcorn, 3 bags of whatever I buy, pretzels. When we got in there, I opened up the napkin, because we're in a cell by ourselves, and I made piles. And Bobby's looking at me. "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm setting the table for lunch. My son is coming, we're going to have lunch, Bob." Justin walks in, he's in shackles, he's in chains, he's in an orange jumpsuit. And all I could think to say to him is, "My little carrot, you look great in orange." The guard does not know where to look, Bob doesn't know, and Justin just smiled at me, and I said to him, "Sit down, sweetheart, here's your lunch." He knew I would be all right that day. And 2 or 3 weeks, well, maybe 5 weeks later, I knew my son would be all right. Bear with me if you've heard the story. He was in a cell 6 by 9. Now that's the size of a bathroom. He was in that cell for a year and a half. And you go crazy in those situations usually. But I'd send him pictures of Jesus, you know, and he'd take mayonnaise for the sandwich and put it on the wall, and Jesus would be looking at him all day. He said, "You have no light in the room because there's very thin slits in those cells." He said, "But one day, Mom, it was the craziest thing. This beam of light came through that slit and right onto that face of Jesus you sent me, like he was smiling at me." He said, "First I thought maybe the feds had an X-ray gun shooting at me, but no, this was for Jesus." Then he tells me the following week, because we were only allowed to see him for an hour once a week, but it really broke down to 45 minutes, that they put a kid in with him, a boy, when he was 19, and his name was Frankie. And I said, "You have a cellmate?" Because yeah, it's very unusual, but they gave me Frankie because Frankie's losing it. He's kicking the door of the cell, screaming all night. This has been going on for 2 nights, and that's a sign that they're going to kill themselves. There's a lot of suicides in those kind of situations. So knowing that Justin was a police officer, knowing Justin was dealing with it, they put Frankie in with him. But Frankie was a nervous wreck. He couldn't calm down. He'd curse all day, he'd scream, and you're talking 6 by 9 with 2 beds. And Justin says to Frankie, "This is hard enough for me. You're going to have to just pace it down a little. You understand?" He says, "Because I can't do this." He says, "Write to your mother." He says, "I'm writing to my family. Read a book," because Justin, thank God, loved to read as a child, and he continued that all through prison, still does. And Frankie finally, all right. 2 or 3 days of this, and then finally Frankie just screams at Justin, "I can't write to my mother because I do not know how to write. I do not know how to read. I do not know how to write." So Justin just looked at her and goes, "I'll write to your mother. You want a letter to her?" He goes, "Yes, of course I do." I said, "Okay." So Justin started writing to Lucy. And Lucy started writing back to Frankie. And she would thank Justin, and she would thank Frankie. This brought a relationship with them and Bob and I on the line with Frankie's mom. It was magnificent. When I don't remember who was going to be taken out of the cell, friend, he was a wreck. How am I going to even order anything from the commissary list? You know, they give you a list if you need toothpaste or whatever, you check it, you know. So Justin says, don't worry about that, I have it all figured out. He drew a picture of a toothbrush, and then he wrote toothbrush. He drew a picture of soap, and then he wrote the word soap. He said, memorize the picture with the symbol, and you never need anybody, Frankie. You won't need me either. He said, and don't tell them you can't do it, because that might cause more confusion. Just keep this little piece of paper with you, wherever you go, whether you get moved, whatever. And so he did. That act made me know that my son would be all right. He understood that I'd be fine, and I understood he would be fine. All we had to do was go forward. That was 17 years ago. And lots happened, but we're still all right. Now, do I take credit for all of that? No. Every day when I came home, during those years, in the beginning especially, there was mail in our mailbox. The mailman just would say to me, I'm just going to put a bag here for you, Grace. You can take it. We never fit in the mailbox. Letters from all over the world. Kids I taught 25 years ago writing to me. People my husband knew. Kids that just knew. And I just put a big box at the end of my table in my kitchen, and every now and then when I get really depressed, I pull a letter out and read it. And everybody said the same thing. We're praying for you. You know, you can feel prayers when people say, I called my friend last night and I prayed for her. She needed to be here. She's here today. She lost 2 children in 2 years. How do you do that? But she's okay. If we do not trust God, and if we do not say to Him, you're in control, we're dead. And if we're not dead physically, we're mentally and physically dead. And He does not want that. What I have found is this. I was telling my grandson once about how his grandfather went to 3 high schools. He did all this, and then eventually they wrote books about him. He was world famous and this and that. Because he was having problems in school. And he looks at me and he says, so what you're trying to tell me, Nana, is greatness sometimes starts with failure. I said, exactly. To me, that was so brilliant that a little kid could put that much wisdom into one sentence of a few words. As Father said, we come here, we're broken. We failed at something. I love when the Pope, when somebody finally asked him, who are you? He just said, I'm a sinner. He united us all with that statement. We're all sinners. And we've all failed at something. But what I think that leads us to, the great part of that is, it teaches us to start forgiving. Who are you going to forgive? You've got to forgive others. I have to forgive everybody connected to this case. You have to forgive yourself. You have to forgive your children. And what happens when you do that in that situation of forgiveness? It starts to bring you beyond an understanding. It brings you to a divine level that only God can give you because He taught us how to forgive. Everybody says to me, how do you do it? You look good. I know I'm a surprise to most people. Trust me, I know it. And I say, well, you know, Jesus and baby oil, sweetheart. That's it. Jesus first, because if you do not humbly sit before that Eucharist, whether it's in chapel, here, or in your own backyard, and you don't just give Him everything, that face contorts, those blood vessels tightened, and you look and you are older. In 10 minutes you can age 10 years, because I know, I can do it. I've done it. I do it every day. And then I pull myself out and go, whoa. No. Who's in charge, Grace? Jesus is in charge. Let Him be. Let Him do His job. What am I telling Him everything? I find, and this I got from Justin, he says, you know, when you start to forgive people, truly, even in the prison around him, because of all the things happening with the police department, everybody stands and go, you're that guy. And it starts all over again. It's never going to end. I know that. He's got 30 years. It'll go on for 30 years. He'll come out of prison. They'll And I thought, thank you again, Lord. Prison can give you a lot of wisdom, too, you know. In the very beginning, I said to my husband and Justin, at FCC, I think this was, I said, you know, I know everything's really bad, and it's going to be never. So I was always an opposing viewpoint in the household of 4 men, which is never easy. I said, you know what I think? I think in the end, this whole thing's going to be a love story. So Bob and Justin put their hands to their head, shake their head, a love story, Mom. Is that what you get out of this? I said, yeah, I really think it's going to be a love story. Because God can change anything. You know? Plus, think of all the good things that have happened to us already, which they did from day one. Day one. My son is now married to a girl I taught. Great kid, Caroline. And they were together for his birthday last week. And you know what he said to her? Because you know what? I got to tell you something. He said, my mother said something 17 years ago, and we laughed at her. He said, but she was right. This is turning into a love story, not just because we got married, but because so many people have been good. And I thought, okay, good, thank you, God. Your kid hears you. Well, your husband hears you. I'm 70 years old now. He comes home when I'm 80. I gotta make it. I'm sorry, I'm even looking up new recipes. Because I want to be able to feed him anything he has. You want that? Just I gotta make that. I'll make that for you. But I've learned one thing in my 70 years. Forgiveness is key. Because without forgiveness, you get no peace. None whatsoever. If you're still angry at something or someone, every day that devil uses it to creep into your skull and drive you nuts. That's what he does. He's a liar. He twists every thought. And you gotta remember something about him. I'm only 70. He's been around for millenniums. He knows how to work you and me. He knows what to say and do, and he knows how to wait. There are days when I'm really on top. I'm really doing good. And then I do more, and then I do more. And then I wear myself out. And guess who walks in? My nanny used to say, El Diablo walks in. He waits. He knows when you're exhausted. Or he knows when somebody has really hurt you so badly and you have no explanation for it. You know, you're going to defend yourself. I didn't say that. And he walks in and he puts more in you. How do you fight that? You got to just get on your knees and keep saying his name. Jesus, help me. Please do, Jesus. Help me. Please do, Jesus. Because the devil can't handle his name. It's a simple thing. You just say the name of Jesus and he runs. You know that? He does. I remember once, a woman told me a story in the prayer group when I first started. You know, the prayer groups, I don't know what they were doing. I didn't get it. They're talking in tongues. I don't know. I'm crying. Snot's coming out of my face. I don't know what I'm doing. And they're praying over me. I'm going, oh my God, what am I doing? But there was a healing there. There was a peace. The people I met, I'm still friends with today. Jean sit there. They prayed over me and it helped. And then one woman told me a story. She says, you know, she told it to all of us, but it really hit me. She goes, you know, my brother is a raging alcoholic. We all have one. And every Christmas, we wait until the middle of the day and he's completely loaded, and that's when he goes off on everybody, and then the holiday gets ruined. She said, but I was sort of ready for him this year. As he started, I started saying something. And I said, what'd you say to him? She didn't say anything to him. I didn't say it out loud. I just kept saying, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. She said, I started breathing. Jesus, Jesus, please, help him, help us. And what happened? What happened? He deflated like a damn balloon. He just collapsed on the couch and didn't say one more word. And everybody went, wow, he's not talking. And he was fine. And I thought, yeah, why not? He's everything. until it hit me that I felt better. And it was him making me feel better. And one day, honestly, I did say this. I'm going to say, all right, Lord, I'm not going to say why me, because anything can happen to anybody, and that lost 2 kids still is hurting. There's so many people right in front of my face that I know are hurting. I said, why me? I'm just going to ask you one thing. Why so big? Why is this all over the news and all in Morocco and around the world? Are we kidding? I know we did something bad. I know something happened, but I don't even know the names of the people that took down the World Trade Center or what they look like. And I heard so distinctly, and you can hear God when you're quiet. So they'll pay attention and listen. And I went, what does that mean? Pay attention and listen to what? Well, that was a long time ago, that statement given to me. But here I am today. And you are paying attention and listening. I don't have the answers for this world. I don't even know. I don't have the answers for myself, but I do know this. If I trust Jesus, as it says from Sister Faustina, trust in him, you can deal with anything. Absolutely anything. People are so afraid of ISIS. The kids in my class now talk about ISIS. Mrs. Volpe, I said, listen, we're going to pray for ISIS, okay? They talk about Ebola. What about Ebola? I said, what about Ebola? When I was a kid, we had polio. And then all of a sudden, they found a cure for it. Thank God Ebola came to the United States. We'll find a cure. Trust me. I said, what about cancer? I said, I'm praying that one of you in front of me finds the cure for cancer, because it can come from the most simple person on the face of the earth. For every problem under the sun, God has an answer. It's up to us to find it. What I found my answer to be was forgiveness. Forgiveness cures my ills. You know what I mean? When I look at God and I think of the way he suffered, it teaches me to do it God's way, not my way, because my way has not worked yet. Just so you know. You gotta trust him beyond your own understanding. That's the key. You can't think according to yourself. You have to think according to God. And one day, because bright light loves beauty, I'm out in the yard, sitting there, and the sun had come up, and the flowers are beauty, and I'm going, okay, could I make that sun come up today? Could I make these flowers come up? Could those flowers be designed by Grace Volpe? No. But he did all of that. So why am I worrying so much? I found when I started thanking God for everything, absolutely everything, that attitude of thankfulness brought me to another level altogether. Even this, I have a beautiful backyard. It's about 30 by 40. There are old trees in it that my husband was given by my sons from the woods across the street we planted. It's like a canopy. And every now and then I'd say to God, can you go to Mass? Leave me alone, Grace. What do you want to do? You see these trees? They're my cathedral. I'm praying under them. He was right. You can find God absolutely anywhere. And I now have that ability. I like that God gave me islands. I figured out why. So I can shut the world off whenever I want to. Got it. Just close my eyes and zoom off to Jesus. Even on a bank line, I do it. And all of a sudden, I found a peace I don't even understand. I don't understand it, but I'm peaceful. Even my kids will come home, you know, it's 17 years later. What are you doing? I'm just going to take this lily today. Or I'm making a frittata. Or I'm doing something that gives me a sense of normality, whatever that is. But I do find this. Once I get to being thankful, something leaves. Fear leaves, worry leaves, and I no longer have them as my constant companion. I saw a movie once which I like very much. It's a Beautiful Life. I hope I got that title right. It's the one about the schizophrenic, the man from Princeton. And he's followed by these people in his imagination all the time. And then finally he gets better, only realizing that this little girl in his imagination imagination never grows up, and that's what makes them understand, this is a figment of my imagination, this ain't real. But he would go to class, and they loved him, because he was funny. You had to be funny, too. And one of the kids was saying to him, so, Professor, are they still out there? Do you still see them? Because everybody knew he was a schizophrenic. He made no bones of that. But he was a brilliant schizophrenic. And he said, he just smiled. And he looks over to the corner of the room, and they're standing there. You, as us in the theater, get to see them. And he goes, I just choose to ignore them. And I thought, whoa, that's great. We all have those demons in the corner of our brain or the room. But are you going to entertain them, or are you going to ignore them? Bobby used to say to me sometimes, what dog am I going to feed today in my brain? So please pick the nice one. Please pick the nice one. I miss him so much. I had a rare marriage. I liked him. And then when I was 14, I proposed to him that night. We were married 5 years later, at 19 and 21. And we grew up together. And we fought like crazy, but we always fought with the back door closed and the front door closed. We're settling this. And we did. He was smart beyond words. And he taught me so much. I was doing my gardening this week, and I thought, yeah, well, it's a garden. I can garden now. I don't worry about having anything to do gardening. And one time I said to him, if I didn't marry you, I'd probably never be an artist. Because he was the artist. And he starts to laugh at me. Because really, is that what you think? I said, yeah. He said, so let me get this right. If you married a brain surgeon, do you think you'd be doing brain surgery on the weekend because you married a brain surgeon? Are you crazy? He said, you had it in you, kid, all along. You loved me because it was in you to see the beauty. What a God. I love him so much. But you know what I found? And I love my boys so much. And I love my grandchildren. And I love my daughter-in-laws. All 3 sons, 3 daughter-in-laws, and 3 children, and 4 grandchildren. You can love them so much that it can almost be a detriment. And I thought about this. If the devil had to really screw me up, what would he use? I really don't drink that much sometimes, but I don't like gambling because I'm not wasting my money. I overeat seasonally, which is right now. What else? I don't know. But the only thing he could really play with my head is through my family. Something happens to one of my kids or something happens. I'm getting crazy now. And I thought about that, and I thought that was his inroad to me, the devil. So I had to put my family on that altar and give God back what he gave me. Because if I didn't, I was trying to control it too much. Can't do that. When Bob died, I thought, oh, now. But then I remembered something. Before I met Bob, I was praying as a kid. God, give me somebody to talk to, because I asked a million crazy questions all day. I just do. I always did. My friends used to look at me and go, what do you think about that? It's in that head. And when I met Bob Volpe, I tested him because we really did. And I liked him immediately. We were at a Sweet 16 party, and I thought, this is good. And I tested him by crazy questions, and he gave me answers. Some of them I know he made up, but they were feasible, and that was enough for me. But when he died, I thought, now who do I talk to? Who do I ask these questions? What do I get? And then I thought about it, and I thought, wait a minute. I prayed to Jesus to give me somebody to talk to. Who was I talking to then? I was already talking to God. So maybe I should just go right back to God and talk to him. And that's when I spent a lot of time in that chapel, a lot of time here, or a lot of time in the yard talking to Jesus. You can talk to him anyway. And it's when I realized that you can love Jesus more than your own husband, more than your own children, which sounds crazy. More than anything on the face of this earth, you can love Jesus. And once you get to that level where he is it, don't worry about everyone else the same way, because he is going to take care of them. I'm going to cut this short now, so time for other things. But all I want you to know is the words, be not afraid, are real. God is real. You can walk and talk to him all day long. And here's the thing, we'll never leave you alone. I want to go home. I want to go home. I want to be with my Bob. I want to be with my mother, my father, all my friends. And I believe with all my heart, if I try to do everything I can, he's going to lead me up, Scotty. And that is where the great story begins for all eternity. God bless you. Thank you for listening.